All right, welcome back, everyone. 3:15 right now, and we've got to dig in a little bit more, a little deeper into what's been going on at NATO. It's a major summit, we know, each year, but this year there were a number of issues going into the summit, and finding out exactly how all of that fleshed out is going to take more than just you and I. So let's bring in our expert for this conversation, Jay Aldebert, Chief Growth Officer of International Services Incorporated. Jay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I listened in to the press conference this morning with President Trump for quite some time. It was a wide range of different issues that the reporters were asking about coming out of the NATO summit. Tell me your impression of how this NATO summit has gone.
It seems quite contentious. It seems that there was an agenda, obviously. It wasn't as fluid as prior, it would seem. And as a result, there is going to be some trickle-down effect as it relates to the policies that have been created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this question of allies. I mean, President Trump has not been shy about criticizing the existence of NATO itself and the allies within NATO for quite some time. Do you think we made any headway with the allies, or that things are even more strained?
I think it's more strained. I think you're going to be put into a position where you're going to find that individuals are forced to do things based on public opinion. Small example is obviously armed forces throughout the world. But there is some big impact that can come from just the increase of Europe example. If they're forced to spend as much as they're required to do under NATO for their armed forces, just the steel supply worldwide, that can have a huge effect right there. So I think that the strained relationships are going to cause numerous trickle-down effects.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit more about that, how this affects small businesses, because they're essentially a world away, but there is an impact by the conversations that are happening there.
Absolutely. It's not an immediate effect that will happen based on the policies that are structured there or the deals that are made. It does have, in the next coming months, that's where we're going to see it. You're going to see the effects of fuel, commodities, all those different aspects that the small, medium-sized business owner won't see right away, but the price of those commodities that they use in their specific trade or industry are going to go up, and they have to brace themselves for it. The good thing is that they do have a couple months to do so.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like the market overall has been difficult for small businesses anyhow before NATO began?
I think when you get into an uncertain marketplace, there's a lot, the media covers so many different policy changes and so many different strifes that are around the world. It creates an uncertain community, and that uncertain community is slower to act. And that slower to act does have an impact on pretty much every economy and every trade, either your small or medium or even large marketplaces, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seemed like as President Trump was talking this morning, the markets, whatever he was saying, the markets were agreeing with in the immediate time.
For sure. I was noticing that as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely showing that the response overall by, in most cases, markets are predicted, as we know, and obviously that has an impact on pricing. And when it's solidified, people are reacting, obviously, on whether they're pulling, calling, or purchasing as it relates. And so you will see the immediate impact. It does, in most cases, obviously level out in the next coming days as there's a more of a dissection of what happened during that summit in Turkey.
Mm-hmm. And of course, one of the big talkers of at least today was his comments about more strikes against Iran, possibly even tonight. And so you wonder about what's going to happen with oil again.
That's a big one. Obviously, there was some great strides in the last couple of days as it relates to the price of oil, in terms of the barrel price. even just the lettings that they were allowing in terms of how many barrels they were going to produce, and obviously with intention to produce a profit. I'd like to see what's going to happen in the next 24 hours as it relates to the news that comes out of this, and what will the price of a barrel of oil cost, and obviously what will the major companies allow to be produced at that cost.
Mm-hmm. And what are some other things that you would anticipate in the next few days?
Next few days, as I said, if we're talking about small, medium-sized businesses or your consumers in the local Chicago area, I don't think you're going to see a lot of impact as it relates to these decisions. I think that what you're going to have is, once the breakup of the NATO committee occurs, is they're going to go back to their local markets and then in their local countries as well, obviously. And when they go back to their local countries, their responses as it relates to what you're bringing back, something by the media, obviously by their governments, and how they're going to react. That's going to be very interesting. It's hard to predict what that's going to be, but it's going to be interesting that all of a sudden, well, we made these certain deals, obviously during the talks, or this is what was mandated, and sometimes obviously the impact from that message within a country can actually change the mindset of the individual who actually attended.
Yeah, what gives you most concern thus far?
It's always going to be the oil. Oil has such an effect on so many different industries and so many different types of business. And that effect itself, if small, medium-sized businesses or just the regular consumer hasn't braced for that, even in the budget of their own household, it will continue to have an effect. And I think that is my biggest concern for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then if a business is preparing for those moments, like you said, okay, the summit happens, then, immediately, as we were saying, you see the markets like, great, yay. But then maybe it takes a little time for the ripple effects to actually get going, for the dominoes to start rolling. How does a business prepare? Walk us through that.
So if I may, the very start of this is, as I said, if there are bids that a individual company has put out, and those are 15 to 30 days old, I'd immediately do a new pricing with a buffer built into it. So in other words, sometimes you can put a bid out and people are deciding on it, whatever, the trade that we're talking about. And I'd be recoiling those back. That's a preparation, is recoiling those back, repricing and sending that out. That would be an action point right away. As a firm, we go through roughly 10 to 12,000 small, medium-sized businesses a year. So we get to see a great landscape of all the industries. The most common thing we see is the ability to control profit. Business owners pay attention to the top line and very rarely pay attention to the bottom line. And the meat in between, I guess is the best way to put it, is the important parts. Taking inventory of your direct costs, taking inventory of your overhead, and looking at leaks that actually occur there, which could be labor productivity as an example. That type of inventorying and that type of reconciliation prepares you for the impact of what may come, I guess is the best way to put it. And taking that inventory and then measuring and managing proactively gives you the ability to reverse that impact, and you won't feel it as much. If you stay the same and then feel that impact, obviously it can be catastrophic in most cases.
Catastrophic. We never like that for any of our, especially small businesses, as it's so tough for small businesses anyhow. What is the sentiment that you get from, I don't know, maybe trade unions or any conferences or anything of that sort about the business environment right now that people are experiencing and trying to wade through?
It is the uncertainty. Should I buy that piece of equipment? What is going to come down the pipe? Should I be hiring right now? What's going to happen to my sector? There is a lot of question about progression in any direction. Should I grow? Should I stay the same? Should I cut back on my employees? Those are a lot of the conversations, and I'm not even talking about the trades. Like, I have conversations with probably 30 new business owners every day.
Wow.
30 new business owners, and I'm listening to exactly, what they're feeling and what their concerns are. I would be dishonest if I were to say that most cases the ailments that exist in a business, right? They're brought to light when you have some sort of economic strife. So in a lot of businesses that we walk into, they have those illnesses already. And so to be able to take inventory and figure out where they are is super important until the next economic shift.
Very interesting and, great perspective from the inside. Speaking to so many different business owners and so many different, facets of our society, but there are some like through lines for business owners regardless of what industry you're in.
That is so true. One of the areas that and it's a changeover from generation to generation, as in other words, the labor force changing from generation to generation, shifting from baby boomers to Generation X to millennials. The ability to manage labor productivity is one of those aspects. Is what am I getting in return for what I'm investing in that employee? And it sounds very cold to say, but it is one of the biggest, I don't want to use the C word in terms of cancers, but it's the biggest cancer to small and medium-sized businesses, is figuring out how to manage each generation of a labor force to get the return on investment that you're supposed to. And it doesn't matter industry, it doesn't matter trade, it doesn't matter where in the country. That is a common thread.
Well, it's going to be these next several weeks following NATO. I know we'll all have our eyes on what happens from here. In fact, Sasha, can we look at the big board and just see what's happening right now? We talked about the fact that like right as President Trump was talking, the markets were going crazy in the positive. Look at this, Jay.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. That's especially in the DJI. What you're seeing is they're concerned about obviously pricing of commodities. The pricing of commodities is going to affect the manufacturing cost, and obviously the manufacturing shipping. That's going to be another area as well.
Yeah, I mean, we talk so much about how the word uncertainty affects the market, and that was one of the first words we used in this conversation. Wow.
It's very common. There is a correction, right? Obviously, what stories the media such as you are going to bring out, and obviously the experts going through every aspect, every decision, and all that kind of stuff. You're going to see this go up and down over the next couple of days for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for lending your expertise to us. We certainly appreciate it.
Anytime. This has been fantastic. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.